Okay.
Seemed like the right beat, and then I couldn't find it for some reason.
Yeah, it occurred to me that I should probably give you a heads up if I'm going to play something that's not in 4.
Oh, that's why I couldn't find it. It wasn't like the 200 millisecond delay.
We still got to do that. Hey, right now we should do that.
We should figure out what the delay is.
Time the delay, although it'll probably just be my perspective. It'll be different for everybody else. But I'm going to count to 4, and you guys both count. I'm going to clap 1, 2, 3, 4, and you both clap 5, 6, 7, 8. And then if your delay is different from each other, it'll be extra bad.
Okay, give us a tempo though, so we understand.
So I'm saying I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to 5, 6, 7, 8 in time. So here we go.
Together though, her and I together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or just what you perceive to be right.
Right, what I perceive to be right.
Just continue my 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay, you guys were pretty synced to me, and that was it.
Over here was nowhere near Travis. I was nowhere near Travis.
Okay, I guess
Jen was almost on the upbeat.
I guess
do it again. Do it again.
Okay, and that was pretty close to the tempo of the lag. So I'm just going to tighten it up a tiny bit.
Wait. One more time.
2, 3, 4.
5, 6, 7, 8.
That you guys
sounds like we're playing a polka to me. It's like
So
that was pretty close for you, Dale.
The first one was, and just now you guys were.
Well, maybe we just kind of suck in our timing.
No, you were off perfectly 8 notes. But that was very close to the tempo of the lag on my end is about that. So no, it's twice that because you skipped a beat. I went 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 5, 6, 7. So anyway, it's useful things in drum lessons, but only to let me know when I should say things to cue people. But you're never going to play in time.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you. Good night.
Overthought things that only Dale thinks about.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
Scared me.
Hey, turn off the banner.
I got it.
Hey, that
first
millisecond latency is very interesting.
Welcome to Outside the Inn, everybody. We are the Travis Larson Band. We are actually a band, or at least we were a band.
Formerly known as a band.
Formerly known as the Travis Larson Band. Now it's the Travis Larson Vision, or the Telly Larson Vision. I'm not really sure. The talking Larson viscous substance.
Turns out there's a skill involved in making those acronyms.
Right,
we don't have it.
I'm not good at it. That's why I'm an instrumentalist. Anyway, this is Outside the Inn. This is the live, a weekly Travis Larson Band Q&A / discussion / basic hangout. We're really just virtually hanging out with everybody.
I know. I haven't seen you guys in forever. How's everything? I saw Travis on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
For his awesome show. But anyways.
Well, I had a day that I can't talk about. I could talk about vagaries. Is vagaries a word?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
vagaries?
Talk about it.
Vagaries. That's a word.
Oh, I thought he said vaguelies. Like
vagaries is a word, Dale?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to keep it. I'll keep it at this. And if there's an ability to talk about detail in the future, I will, but I don't have permission.
Well, don't reveal anything that's not cool.
Yeah, I know. I won't.
Okay. I can't wait.
A friend of mine who's really famous texted me earlier and said, "A bat flew into my face. I have a black eye."
Rough.
I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I thought, and then I said,
was it Ozzy Osbourne?
Right. That's karma.
Like that genre, you know? And I said, I've never heard of such a thing. I hate bats. They creep me out. And then I realized maybe they got hit in the face with a bat because how crazy the world is. Right. And then I started thinking, oh, maybe I'm really stupid. So I messaged him back. I'm like, did you get hit with a bat or a bat?
Yeah.
And it was like, no, the gross flying things.
Oh, okay. It is better, I guess.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll leave it at that. And there might be more, there could be sequels to this story down the road. We'll see.
My word.
Kip says, should I be drinking for this?
Oh,
What do you
good.
think?
Kip should log in.
Kip.
Yeah, good job.
No, Kip, let me text me if you want to log in. If you don't, that's okay. But I actually have some Kip prepared stuff that
I know. I didn't get through all of my Kip stuff the other day, although I don't know where it is now.
I was going to get into some Kip stuff. In fact, let's just do that, and we'll lead into why we're doing it after the fact. But a couple of days ago, and then remind me again to talk about Wednesday. But since Kip just reminded me of all this stuff, I'll talk about Wednesday later. But Kip, so we found out like 2 or 3 days ago that the NAMM show is basically canceled this coming January, which the NAMM show, for those, we've talked about it before, but it's the National Association of Music Merchants Convention, which means all the people that make all this fine gear that we use every year have this huge convention for like 200,000 people at the Anaheim Convention Center. And people from all over the world go there. And you basically, as a musician, you go there and perform for your various companies that you work with, sponsors that make the gear. It's really just like a big, family reunion every year, because you see all your musician friends that you don't see the rest of the time. So anyway, I found this footage that I was going to share tonight because we were going to talk about NAMM. So tonight's theme is going to be NAMM stories. Not that we can't get into other stuff. Did you guys see this moth that just flew by?
No.
And these are entirely different than NAMM stories, just for the record.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's like when you saw Keanu Reeves in Point Break giving Gary Busey hell, saying, let's just sit around and tell NAMM stories. He wasn't talking about this. It's a whole different thing.
It is a confusing thing. By the way, Travis, isn't that a Brian Regan skit? We can't see the moth, but you're just going to be freaking out.
It's like it's a little.
That guy just lost it.
That's like spider when you walk into a spider web and all of a sudden you're like, whoa.
Right. It keeps going by and it's like. So anyway, since Kip got into this, I was gonna show a whole clip just dedicated to Kip.
Oh wow.
So here's the thing about the NAMM show.
I hope it's the one I think it might be.
Yeah. It's so there's a lot of, we'll get into more of the publicly seen stuff later. There's going to be a small clip just to give you some contextual idea of the evening where, we're with Kip in a car privately or in our room with Kip privately. And then we go to dinner, and I think the dinner is with all, Doug Johns is actually in the video. We're hanging out with him, but everybody's at the dinner. This is the Blue Mouth dinner we do every year for the artists. But then we go back and it's after that. And then we're back with Kip in the car again. And
Vicky's here. I just want to say hi to Vicky and Glenn Vicky. And John and Wayne and Scott and everybody. Sorry.
Karen.
So you guys let me know if you can hear this, first of all, because that's imperative.
Yes.
So, these are precious moments.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So just in case you missed that, let me go back a ways. Just in case you missed what was going on there. Oh, there's Victor Wooten.
These are precious moments.
You see that? It's the fart machine. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a little sound making device that Kip had at the NAMM show, and he enjoyed it to the fullest. Because farting is funny.
Always.
Oh my God. That's funny. Ooh, that was me. Oh my God.
It's the audio guy. There's Carl Roa.
Whoa, dude. What was that?
We got Doug back. We're at the NAMM show.
And then we went to dinner, and then after dinner, it continued.
We got this year. Last year it was a burger.
Don't ever point with your middle finger, dude.
Just hanging out. We're what you call networking. Yes.
The power of farts.
That's a red light, dude.
Oh.
Don't keep going.
Doug?
I think that's Gino.
Oh. Just for the record, there's no alcohol involved with this.
Wow. Welcome, NAMM. Oh my That's a that. Stop it. Okay, I'm gonna turn it off and keep doing it.
The level of which
No, I won't.
it keeps going.
Funny.
So
Hang on.
yeah, oh, wait.
Stop. I'm here with.
So anyway, that's
It's about 50-50 of things that are hilarious with Kip and things that you're laughing because how hilarious he finds them.
right. Exactly.
Right.
He's just dying.
But they're both in equal joy.
right.
I wonder if Kip still has the fart machine. Kip,
Yeah. Yep. Gonna have to weigh in on this.
you're gonna have to weigh in on this.
Yeah. He
Who
says,
has
who
the
has
button? He said. Yes, that was. Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, and Gino's here too. Yeah, that was Gino in the back of the
Oh.
back seat laughing at the
Okay.
stoplight.
I thought I saw Doug Johns, but I guess not.
But so that's like
That's
know,
Nam.
that's
Welcome, Nam.
Welcome now. That would be why we're all still riding around in a car together, is fart machines and
Oh, Kip does not still have the fart machine. It
Oh,
would
man.
appear.
it's it's things like this.
Quit your jibber jabber.
Yeah.
Just they keep
Doesn't
the
that
band
thing
together.
have any other options than that one saying?
It's got several.
Shut up, fool. First name, Mister. Middle name, period. Last name, T.
Hey,
case
that
you were
could be your
wondering.
new. That could be your new.
Yeah. Last
Bumper.
name
Be-
T.
That's going to be the canned intro for the next tour. We're just
Okay.
going to play that, and then I'm going to walk out.
I pity the fool.
You think you're making jokes, but you're committing things to these people.
Right. Instead of having Mark Storm introduce us,
Yes.
we'll have Mr. T go.
Yep.
First name Mr. So anyway,
Well, I would like to interject that
Yes.
NAMM, their new platform is called the Believe in Music Week, new intuitive technology, and they are hoping to deploy an equally compelling experience. How do you feel about that? This equally compelling experience that will all be virtual.
I feel like it will be easy to be equally compelling. Like the main point of NAMM seems like with all the business that takes place there, that's what won't happen. But as far as somebody consuming performances and stuff,
Okay.
seems like that could be done.
Mm-hmm.
it's certainly easier to engage the person that's watching than it is when you're in a 40 by 40 booth where it's super noisy and you're trying, as an artist, it's going to be,
Yeah.
that part of it.
Yeah.
But certainly it's not going to be the same. I watched a bunch of the Gear Fest. I don't know if you guys watched that, the Sweetwater Gear Fest, about a month ago or so when they did that. And they did basically a virtual version of Gear Fest, is like a small version of the NAMM show. And they had, people, it's kind of guys that have their technical stuff together at home, kind of like the things that we've been doing with the performing shows and stuff, where they have the ability to play with good sound and they've got a decent camera or two. And so those guys were doing stuff, and they did a lot of Q&A stuff too. I saw Alan Parsons from his home studio, which was amazing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because of course, what was cool about that for me was we did, the Luke sessions for the Burn Season record on the Dark Side of the Moon board. And Alan Parsons is, yeah. And so he's sitting in front of the huge Neve console talking about Dark Side of the Moon. So I was all geeking out on that. And just, certain guys like that you never see. You don't see them do a lot of stuff, or at least I don't.
Yeah.
I'm too busy watching reruns of Starsky and Hutch on DVD. But if they're out there, if Alan Parsons is doing a lot of stuff online, I'm not aware of it. So,
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, so I think, the alternative is we don't do anything, right? So I think it's cool that they do something, and I'm certainly going to be prepared for it. And we'll talk more about that as we go. We're learning something every single time we do one of the performance nights.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dale.
I was going to say thinking a few more moments about that. What you won't have is the excitement and the energy. The people will say, well, it's just not the same as being there, and they'll be right. But if they're going to say it just doesn't sound the same, like the energy won't be the same, but the questionability of the sound over the internet will be on par with the questionability of the sound at low volumes, with a lot of distraction, with not enough setup, with gear that you haven't had a chance to get your hands on, around too many people, with a ton of distractions. So sonically, I think we'd be close.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. I think that, yeah, the biggest thing is that it is like a family reunion every year. You see people, from everywhere, and you won't have that that experience.
And I was answering just now as far as somebody who went there as, people who don't have business in the industry will go to NAMM and want to see their heroes play. I think I was sort of addressing it from that perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting thing is, and everybody always says this will make everyone appreciate everything. Interesting perspective of mine is, and we'll go back to the very beginning of NAMM as part of the discussion that I want to talk about. But when in the last few years, and this is, knock on wood, this has been a good thing, because it just means that things are going okay, or we're going okay. But I was not, like, NAMM was actually starting to become a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when we started going there, we went there as geeky kids that were just trying to get in. And I mean, we're musicians, but nobody was taking us to NAMM. It was like, how can we get a pass to NAMM,
Right.
and some friend that has a friend that has a music store or whatever. And then you do that for long enough. And then, so the last few years, I've been working so hard at NAMM that I've actually been kind of too tired to appreciate the moments. The last NAMM, 2 days in a row, I saw Steve Morris play Highland Wedding, and then we hung out afterwards for 2 days in a row, like around lunchtime. I'd go have lunch. I'd watch Steve play Highland Wedding, doing his Music Man performance, and then we'd hang out, and I was so tired that I didn't appreciate that at the level I should. I'm certainly intellectually, I'm going, this is, if I was 19 and you told me that this would be a scenario, I'd be like, yeah, that's never going to happen. But I'm also so burnt the last couple of years at NAMM that I'm just sitting there like almost dizzy, just what do I got to do next? When do I have to be at the show? What time is sound check? The other thing is, the last NAMM was the busiest I'd ever had in my entire career. I played every single night, and I played every single day. So like, just for the people that haven't been in NAMM, you have convention booths that are usually, maybe like 40 by 40 or something like that. And some of them are closed off with little walls, and they have a little performance stage, and they'll have all the artists for that company that endorse them, or the ones that make sense to have, I suppose, will be there talking about specific gear and playing a little bit, maybe doing some Q&A. And then at night, if you're busy and you're doing, and there's demand, you're doing concerts. And so the last NAMM show, I played 4 nights in a row, I think it was. I jammed at like 3 different jams, I think it was. And then we did our show with the X Jam with, all our friends, Andy Timmons and Zappa and all that stuff. The Zappa guys. So,
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But
I think 2 years ago, in contrast to your schedule, I only had a 1-hour set the whole weekend, and it might be the hardest I've ever worked, and the only time I can say in my career that I think I walked away going, not sure that was worth it. I have to think about this. I'm going to think of it. And then that was just setting up the X Jam with Blue Mouth, and everybody involved worked so hard. Jen and I, and Trav was working his ass off in the convention hall, and we were making this whole show happen from load in bare concrete floors with Kip and Gino, and at the end of 2 days, it's the hardest I'd worked at NAMM ever, even though I only had to play for one set. What's going on in there?
I got a moth. At least it's not a bat.
Yeah, somebody earlier said, I think it might be a bat. Hey, somebody said, is Moon using a Bayer mic there? I am using, somebody, that was Serta. Hey, guy. No, it's an Electro Voice. I don't have my headset mic with me.
Yeah, come on, guy.
Holy. Somebody,
we only use Electro Voice.
Gerner,
Awkward silence. No, I don't know.
Gerner said, so how do I go about getting charged $60 for parking at a virtual event?
Right. That's very good. That's great. Yeah.
How are we gonna absorb enough abuse at this thing if it's virtual?
I know.
The real
Oh
question,
my gosh. Yeah.
Werner, the real question is, how are you going to buy me a double-decker hamburger virtually?
At JT Schmidt's or T. I never know if it's JT or TJ.
I think it's
Neither do I.
TJ Schmid's
Schmidt. Okay. TJ.
is where we always go, which I wouldn't say except for we know we're not going there. So,
Well,
And Jeff Yeager says, I won't lose 20 dB of hearing walking through the drum and cymbal area.
yes.
That's an entertaining thing about NAMM to drummers, because it used to be much more concentrated at one end of the hall where they kept all the drummers and all the cavemen and everybody up in one area. And they just sort of gave up on the sound decibel levels, and they just kind of threw up their hands, and it turns into like everybody hitting marching snares as loud as they can. And it's just a roar. But if you're a drummer, you just acclimate to it right away. And it's such a constant roar, it doesn't alarm you. It's just super loud, and you hang out there all day, both days, 3 days, 4 days, and then somebody will come across you and say, "Hey, how's it going? What have you been up to?" And you try to catch up, and at some point their eyes just click sideways, and they go, "I gotta go. I can't hang here. This is driving me crazy." And if you're a drummer, you don't even notice it. You're like, "Huh? What? Me? Do I? What?" And then, but they just can't handle the noise, and you've just been standing in it all day.
Yeah.
So let me just interject real quick. Glenn Hintzman has called it. So he goes, "Hey, get Mark Storm on as a guest." So I'm just going to read this text for you real quick, Glenn. It says, "Please do not plan on me. This is going on way too long here. For sure, I can do another time." Now, I'm not going to tell you what he's doing, but Mark was supposed to be on here right now.
Yes.
Mark will be joining us and would have been.
Mark was our secret surprise guest tonight.
Yeah, he's supposed to be here. So we're working on that, but he's indisposed. There's stuff going on. So, and it's not always easy to get internet. That's the thing. But so I was going to go back and talk about just like kind of our NAMM arc, and so when we put out our very first record, Aaron Dobson, who was kind of co-managing us with, between Jen and I, Aaron was managing a club in town that Kip used to mix at called Slow Brewing Company, San Luis Obispo Brewing Company, which is the version of that is now defunct. It's not the same place. It's not the same owners. But he got us into our first NAMM show, and he basically came to us and said, "I think this is something you guys should go to." And it's a music convention, and, we didn't really know, I don't think much about it. So I'll just start with like the first moment of walking into NAMM, because Jen and I, like a very, very first NAMM, we walked in together, and I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell like the whole, like first 10 minutes. I walk in, and we're looking around, and of course there's a million people, there's instruments everywhere, but it feels like a convention. You look around and you're just like, it's not like candy store exciting at first until you really realize where you are. You kind of look around and you're just like overwhelmed. You don't know what to do, where to go, what to look at. And I hear a Moog synthesizer down around a corner, like just honking, just wee, 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 just like huge. And I look at Jen, I go, "Sounds like Keith Emerson." And we walk down and we go around the corner, and there's Keith Emerson wearing a black sport coat with the Moog that he uses with all the crazy, looks like a telephone patch, system. And he's just basically playing it solo for like 50 people that are standing there, and he's going to sign autographs. And I was like, my jaw was on the floor instantly. I'm like, Keith Emerson is standing right there playing Moog synthesizer. So we watched that for a while, and then we kind of cruised on. And the next guy I saw was Chester Thompson, who is being a Genesis fan. And let's not get into any Genesis discussions. Chester Thompson played those songs for 30 years. Let's not talk about what's Genesis and what's not Genesis. And I saw Chester Thompson. Plus, he's just amazing anyway. And you can overhear him telling the guy he's talking to, like probably a rep or somebody, he goes, I gotta go to the bathroom so bad.
That is the
And
perfect Nam comment right there.
he's like, I gotta go to the bathroom so bad. And I overhear this, and I'm still the guy that's gonna step in front of him and say, Chester, I'm a really big fan. I know you gotta go. And so I started with that. I know you gotta go. Just a quick picture, please.
Aw.
But that was my first 10 minutes of a NAMM show with Keith Emerson and Chester Thompson. Like in the first 10 minutes, I was just like overwhelmed. And then, we would see, we'd see LaRue running around all over the place back then. And we had met him, but we weren't like friends with him. We didn't know him. We'd met him in an alleyway as fans behind Ventura Theater once. He had no clue who we were, but, or so we thought. And he would walk by us. And the very first time he walked by us, he looks us in the eye and he's like, hey guys, how's it going? And we're like giggly kids. We look at each other and we're like, we were,
not always,
Oh my God.
not always Dave LaRue's MO either, is to stop and say hi when he's in a situation.
Yeah, he's all business. Got to get to where I'm going. That New Jersey in him, but he was super, you saw him look at us, acknowledge, smile, and like he recognized, hey, I knew those guys. And then, so that was like our very, very first NAMM show. And we went to several NAMM shows like that, where we were just basically, we were all going down. We were camping out in the cheapest hotel we could find. Everybody was in the hotel room. It was me, Jen, Dale, Gino, Devin, as time went on,
Bill,
Kip. Yeah, Bill, by the way, for those that don't know Bill is he's a big dude. I think I've probably described Bill. So Bill's the only guy that I know of that has a TLB tattoo on him. It's right over his heart. And he looks like the sideman in Braveheart. Like if you've seen the movie Braveheart, the hammer guy, the big hammer guy with the red beard and the kilt, like just that's exactly what Bill looks like. And Bill does actually wear a kilt.
Yeah, kilt
yes,
and all.
He does. He totally does.
So the point is, he wasn't like the boy where he takes up small real estate in the room. So it was like there'd be like 5 of us, sometimes 6 of us, just bed pads everywhere, 2 people per bed, and then like 3 people on the floor, 4 people on the floor. Aaron was there.
Yeah.
In the first early ones, so just everybody piled up in our hotel room. And then and it was always like a Motel 6 or a Best Value or something, just something just gross.
Some stanky thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was like years and years. And then we would book gigs around those that nobody cared about, that nobody would go to. We used to play at, do you remember the name of the venue in Westwood Brewery Company?
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
which is gone now. The building's not even there. But we used to play Westwood Brewing Company, and we would play a place called 14 Below in Santa Monica, and we'd play The Joint on Pico in LA. We would book all these gigs. They were just gigs that you could get. Like they're gigs any band could get. Like you could, if you get on the bill, there's 5 other bands on the bill. They say, they always tell you if you can bring 20 people, and you go, yeah, sure, we can bring 20 people. And you don't bring 2 people, So that was the first several years of the NAMM show. Right?
I'd like to interject that Infinita says, poor Jen. Yes, poor Jen.
That's true. And that's something not discussed very much. The last
that's 20, something not discussed, poor Jen.
20 plus years. Jen is in all these ridiculous situations with just a bunch of knucklehead dudes.
Kip says Bill is the only person that can snore louder than Kip.
That's true too.
That's actually true.
Oh my gosh. I won't go into this story too much, but in one of those early NAMM shows when we were all piled into the rooms, the time that Dale fell asleep on the toilet.
No, if you're going to go that far, you can go as far as you want. What are you saving in this story? That I got blacked out?
I had to go across the street to the Denny's to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. Those were when someone says poor Jen, that's the thing that pops into my head. I'm like, oh yeah, that was. But I mean, it's a good story, right? I
Well,
kept
the
peeking
one
in on him
sentence
to
that
make
I would,
sure he was still alive. He's still alive. Okay.
the sentence that I would redact in that whole story is the one you just went with. So, yeah, I didn't do any drinking early in my high school and college career, so I didn't know the do's and don'ts, and there you are, grown man getting blackout drunk at NAMM.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Dale. I'll defend you on this. And this is the guy that's never had a drink, right? But I will say, in defense of you saying you've never drank in your high school years or any of that stuff, NAMM is the only place where everybody's just like handing you free booze 24 hours a day, right?
It's an open bar, just completely, and you're just, you've already been working all day, and then you go to an event that night, and then you're just like, you're brain dead. Yep.
Right. So then Jen and I we talked about the Music Man. We got a Music Man endorsement around 2001, and then there was an actual reason to go to NAMM, and then out of the Music Man endorsement, we got an endorsement with EV, which we were just talking about. Mark Storm. Mark Storm works for EV to this day, but the guy that signed us to EV, his name was Jim Lapino.
Ah, yes, Loopy.
Yeah, Mark came way later, like almost a decade later, But Loopy grew up on Long Island playing like I've talked about this before, I think, but the original Letterman band, like Will Lee and Sid McGuinness and Charlie Drayton and that whole scene of New York musicians in the 80s used to jam at his house.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a really good dude and a great player. And he literally hooked us up so much on that when nobody really knew who we were. I mean, there was like a few people, but it wasn't, it wasn't the international sensation that we've become.
Yeah.
But no, as far as anybody trying to hawk gear, he just said, this is a band that works harder than anybody else, and I'm going to work with them, period. And so that's how the whole Electro Voice relationship started with him. But the point is that our very first, Jennifer and my specifically, very first NAMM performance, where you had to go to the floor and talk about your gear, and the thing that people don't understand, because you go to these things and they don't really, it seems like a little fanatical because everybody's on, the floor with you and you're taking pictures and stuff, but it doesn't seem as important as it is, in that they are also recording every single thing you're doing.
Right.
And that's every company's one chance to get all their artists on some kind of a video performance that they can use all year for promotion. So what Dale was saying earlier about, you go into these scenarios where the sound is horrible, you can't hear anything because it's loud, you don't have any kind of a sound check, and you're playing quietly because there's a decibel limit on all the booths. So they make you stay a certain level. So that was the very first time Jen and I ever performed at NAMM shows for Electro Voice in 2001 or 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
And they had, like big, huge EV blue backdrop and all the PA stuff set up and posters or pictures everywhere and all that.
Larry just chimed in to say, no, the audio at NAMM is always perfect.
Yeah, right. Always.
Especially for the artist.
You know why it's perfect for Larry? He's not thinking this, but the way it's perfect for Larry is because he brings in-ears.
Yeah, right.
Larry's blissfully unaware that it sounds like crap to everybody, but he's like, I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
So we went and did that, and then that started turning into every year we were coming back and doing that specifically with EV. Then we started getting Dale involved, and Dale got electronic drums. And so we're doing these performances on like a little, 7x7 stage, if that. I don't even, maybe like 6x4 or something. I don't even know. And Dale's got his electronic drums, and we're bringing basically way too much stuff in. Like we had those rock and rollers, which are those rollers that pull out and you stack all your gear on them as a gigging musician, and then they fold back up. And so we had like 2 of those that we would roll into the NAMM show with, just stacked like head high with like drums and guitar cases and pedals and just everything we would need to do a gig minus the PA.
That was the stressed out I've ever been at NAMM when we were doing trio stuff at EV, and things would sort of change. I can't remember what they were, but in the a few weeks before, I remember Trav, you calling me and said, hey, so this is going to be the deal with the drums. It could have been a space constraint or something. We're like, yeah, I can do that. And then it was like something else changed and something else changed. And maybe the set times things changed. So we're going to have like 5 minutes to set up, but it took me 20 minutes to get them. And we just kept saying yes, because what else are you going to do? But you could just feel yourself walking into a stressful situation. And if it was at a nightclub, I would just be like, sorry, deal with it. I'm the drummer. I'm going to be loud and I'm going to be in the way. That's what you signed up for. But the NAMM show, you're really trying to make a good impression. You're trying to give back to this manufacturer that you've been helped by. So you don't want to be, you want to be compliant. You want to be, and I spent 8 hours in the way of NAMM officials, CEOs of Electro Voice, people who I wanted to do right by. And it was the weirdest feeling of one, like I would have just gotten belligerent if it was a nightclub, but I just wanted to cry half the day. I remember getting done with that day, and we all went to dinner and everybody was, woo, it was that kind of the fart machine type vibe. And I was just staring. I remember Jen afterwards, you're like, are you okay? I was like, no, I was great. I was glad it was over, that day, but you're like, you don't seem okay. I was just stared off.
I remember that stress of just feeling like we were being pains in the ass and oopsie.
I collapsed at the end. And again, Trav goes through that all the time at the show, and you too, Jen, and all of us do. But I didn't, back then, I was so anxious and so neurotic about not wanting to make this a bad thing for us and wanted it to be a good thing. It was tough.
I say,
but we never got asked back. No, I'm just kidding.
The beginnings of Dale's good case obsession. Gino says Dale with a full drum rack at Digitech. So that was eventually it went there where we were trying to do that thing upstairs at the Harmon room, which is Digitech, DoD, and JBL and all that. And that was but we ended up not doing it because the CEO pulled the plug on the drum set.
Right.
Oh, is that right? I don't remember that.
Yeah, we loaded all that stuff in. But here's the thing about it. This is before we had any kind of treatment. It was just like show up and do this thing, but nobody was helping. So we were parking like in the parking structure, like down on the other side of the Hilton, and walking this stuff up the street, like on these rollers. And like, there wasn't, it wasn't like, you weren't getting hooked up. There was no rock star treatment. You were literally like pushing through people with all
just
this
nothing
stuff.
but obstacles. People don't want you bringing stuff in, and they certainly don't want you bringing stuff out. And
how it was trying to get your stuff in and out of the actual convention with the, you had to have a slip with every tiny piece of gear written down and go through it all. And oh my God, what a nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to have the exhibitor pass and representative there with you to get back out.
Yep.
All that, just so difficult.
So it's been a gradual step up every year, like very gradual. But I will say that when I first really felt like, this was fun and stressful at the same time, because back in those days, it was still exciting. So, I was talking about this last couple of years where I actually felt burnt, but it's because I was doing so much,
Can I interject super quick just because I'll lose track of this? Gino said Dale with the drum rack, and that was outside of Harmon. So I was going to tell a super quick story.
Yeah.
We're in like the catacombs behind the demo rooms. So it's just convention center, like steel hallways and stairs and stuff. And throughout the weekend, you would see, I think in this case, you'd see famous people, but in this case, it was Slash, and he was being walked around by a bodyguard, and wherever he went, it'd be this big hubbub, and so there's a bodyguard going out of the way, and you almost sense that the bodyguard got as much out of this as, like that was his secondary fame, like out of the way. And Gino and I were standing in the hallway with my gear, and the guy sees the he pokes his head around, sees us, and he goes, "Got to clear this hall, guys." And Gino looks at him, looks at me, and then he comes back around and goes, "Guys, clear the hall." And Gino just goes, like, I'm not going. And then the guy's like, "Clear the hall," and he looks at Gino. Gino just stares at him back. He's like, "I'm not leaving. This is why I'm here to help Dale with his drums." Like, he didn't say that, but he was just like, and the guy just looked at Gino and just went, "We're just gonna go by. This guy's not moving."
Right.
He totally stood his ground. Gino was just like, "This is."
And you can
I got
say
one
it.
job.
I've told the story before. You could say it. And then they walked into the bullpen there where we were waiting to perform in the Harmon room. And we were all sitting there with sandwiches. It was me and Dave Martone, and I think maybe LaRue or somebody.
There, yeah.
And it was, you know, a bunch of like serious players sitting around. And the guy comes walking by with Slash.
And we're all
room where nobody cares about Slash.
And nobody cared. I mean, God bless Slash. But you know, it was just kind of like everybody just kind of eating their sandwiches and looking up like, why has this guy been so excited about this? Like, he's just like, everybody's got to get out of the way. You got to clear the way. And we're like eating homemade, you know, ham sandwiches.
Our own sandwiches, remember?
Brought our own sandwiches. And we're sitting around with guys that are just the best musicians in the world, you know, just ridiculous musicians. By the way, a very quick side note. I'm going to give a shout out to Martone and say that they just released a single yesterday. So hold your jokes till later because it's actually it's cool. But he did a track with Nickelback where they brought him in. Basically, he's like they did Devil Went Down to Georgia, and so you know you needed someone that could make that happen, and Dave made that happen. So so there's Devil Went Down to Georgia, special guest Dave Martone. Go check that out. It's awesome.
It is awesome. Yeah.
And he's been doing that song for like 10 years. Like he was doing that song when we toured with him back in 2009. And, you know, it's always been one of his deals, but just the level of chops on this thing is just like so stupid.
James Tejada had asked earlier if we're going to have Dave Martone on. And I want to say we had Dave on. You just weren't.
Go back, look.
You have to go find the rerun.
We'll have to have him back though.
Yeah, he may be back. We're going through the first cycle of everybody, and then eventually we might start doing some repeat guests. But yeah, we did a whole Martone thing. So check that out. But anyway, so we're gradually stepping up at the NAMM show every year, you know, and again, it's still totally nerve-wracking, exciting to see everybody. I will say too that I won't completely throw anyone under the bus, but Jen and I used to walk up to some of these booths where there were private areas and we would get shut down. And these were companies that we were endorsing, but we would get shut down to hang out with the big boys, quote unquote. And so we know exactly what it is, you know, to feel like sheepish and walk away with your tail between your legs. You know, it's like, I just want to say hi, you know, we both work with the same company. And they're like, yeah, you're not allowed past this point kind of thing. And so then there was the year where there was two duos demoing at Music Man every day, all day long, back and forth. And it was me and you and Dave LaRue and Steve Morris for 4 days, all day long, like every hour on the hour. So it would be you
stressful at all.
Right. But that was, you know, and we were very well taken care of, and we got to stay in the hotel that is literally the closest possible one you can be in. You know, it's like the other side of the parking lot from the NAMM show. And that was, Tommy says, Keneally would be great. As a repeat guest. Yes. As a repeat guest. I'm sure that'll happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was kind of the first, you know, where you really felt like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. I'm excited to be here.
Catered food that they had for the big boys. Remember?
Yeah. Well, and so I'll just a quick fast forward and then I'll go back again. So you mentioned the catered food that you get for the big boys. Now I'm running around doing all kinds of different stuff at different booths, and I'll still go over there at lunchtime and still just grab the catered food for the big boys. But you know, I just walk right in. The last NAMM show, like I said, I used to go over this last NAMM show. I'd go over, have my lunch. I'd watch Steve Morris play his set, and then we'd hang out. And I remember one day I went over there and I was sitting there, I sat down and get myself a big plate of lasagna. And then Tony Levin came up, like put his hand on my shoulder and goes, "Hey, how you doing?" It's like, those are those things where that's where you kind of look around and go, how did this happen? Like,
Yeah.
how did I get here?
Something to throw under that, like the change between then and now. When we get to NAMM, generally speaking, you guys will be in similar parts of the building and I'll be off in the drum area and stuff. So there's a little bit of peeling off anyway. But I will say, I'd say last 4 or 5 years, when I do catch up with one of you, I make a little bit of a decision whether I'm going to go over, because you guys, you're recognizable enough that it's a bit of a hassle. So put it that way. So like if I see Jen or Trav or both of them, they're getting recognized, and like there's a certain anonymity you get being a drummer. But what's cool about the last 4 or 5 NAMMs is that you guys are so recognizable that I'll go up and talk to you, but occasionally I'm just like, that's a crush. But actually, to be honest, I also nowadays I've learned to go over there in case you need rescuing too.
Yeah, thank you. Sometimes,
What's interesting about that,
he can be so
right.
stormy,
Right.
Sometimes I need rescuing from that.
I'm
kidding.
The thing is that you don't ever get that. Like, at no point in our lives do we ever actually feel like you have to pay attention to the amount of attention you have, except the NAMM show.
Yeah.
Like the only place there's 200,000 people there, and they're all musicians of some level, which is, or audiophiles or people that are into instruments. And since, this genre tends to be something that people like that pay attention to, that you actually, have some attention at the NAMM show, where it's, the rest of your life, nobody cares. Like, I'm not like getting bothered at the store. I'm not George Clooney, right? Even Steve Morris just goes to Subway and gets a sandwich. Nobody cares. But that's kind of a perfect level of, having, enough attention to where you're able to do what you do. I'm going to go back here. I saw John Smith says, this is going to be a weird question for Dale, but I'm just going to throw it out there. He says, "I spy with my little eye something red. Dale Moon, what is the function of the red squares?" You have like one red square behind you.
It's past your bedtime, John Smith.
He says, right. "Why are there a few black ribbed cushion pieces surrounding by open white heart surface? And is it all about the in and out frequencies?"
That is. So where I teach drums at a place called Music Motive, the color design is black and red and white, and I'm sure Stephanie, who knows colors better and who designed the color, would correct me on what those colors actually are on a color wheel. But so actually it's just foam to break up the sound in a drum room, and some of them are black, and there's a few red ones peppered in. But you're right, I seem to have positioned things so you see exactly one red square. Can I okay, there's another one. There's two. There's some peppered throughout the room, proportionate to how much you would splash red around. But yeah, you're right. We have laid it out.
It's hard to tell from here, at least in my view. Are the red ones ribbed also, like the black ones?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
And some
you can't see those shadows as well, so they look flat, kind of.
If you're listening to the audio podcast, I'd like to say that we're talking about things stuck to the wall for sound.
Okay. Yeah. I don't get the joke, but I was paying attention.
Jen's talking about the black ribbed ones, and I'm not.
Oh, sure yes, right. Okay, got it. Yeah, they're not really, reduce the volume in the room much, but they can at least break up the slap back.
Standing waves.
Better than, sheetrock.
Reflective surfaces. Boo! Reflective surfaces.
Right. A good question though.
By
the way,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, James Tejada says, did we ever run into Alan Holdsworth at the NAMM show? I have an Alan Holdsworth story. It's not about NAMM, so go ahead if you had something to say, Dale.
Well, it's not much to say, but since my awareness was brought back into my room, I have another new snare drum. A couple weeks ago, I showed off an Anton big drum.
Ooh.
Every time I record, I borrow drums from friends, and I always seem to use a brass drum, and I don't have a brass drum, so I got this DW brass drum. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Does it still have the price tag on it?
Yes.
Okay.
I seem to be that guy. I lent something to Travel a while ago, and he gave it back. He goes, "You still have the weird like plastic on it. You never even took off the packaging."
Oh, it was
It was a camera.
it was one of the webcams, and it still had the plastic over the lens.
Yeah, it was funny for that reason. But actually, it turns out that it didn't. The plastic was cut out over the lens.
Right.
So I went and pulled it off, and it had a hole there. But at the time, I was like, "Well, that's embarrassing." Apparently, I left the little cellophane over the.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, new brass snare drum.
Congratulations.
So
Are you digging it?
I am actually quite a bit. I've brass drums are kind of they have a nice rich bunch of overtones, but they tend to be loud, and I'm always trying to make my snare less loud so that my toms can pop out. But actually, I do like it a lot. I think it's probably a little obnoxious for live, but I'm hearing why they record so well. They just have a nice broader spectrum.
And since we're gearing up for recording sounds,
yes,
good.
That is basically the thing that's causing me to pull the trigger on some of these things that I usually deny myself.
Cool.
Kip just killed me a little bit. He said, "Ripped for your listening pleasure."
Perfect. That when I say there's a joke in there somewhere, that's the joke.
That's great.
Kip, where's this fart machine on top of that?
Right.
Oh, wait.
So
Wait. That wasn't really.
that's
all right.
That was pretty close. What was that again?
That's my analog fart machine.
Shut up, fool.
So here's the only Ellen Holdsworth story I have ever in the world is Jen and I doing do you remember what it was called, Jen? The Guitar Center thing?
No.
We did a thing down in Long Beach at the Long Beach Convention Center. The coolest thing about this whole thing was that they were getting ready for the Formula One races the following week.
Right.
So all the streets were closed off, and they had like all the signs and stuff up, like they're getting ready, fencing, like they're getting ready for race cars. So that was kind of fun to walk around and go, there's going to be race cars here going like 150, 200 miles an hour in a week, and they're going to be on TV, and I'm walking through the track. But other than that, it wasn't that happening.
No, it kind of wasn't.
But I was there.
Called.
So Guitar Center had basically rented the whole convention center, and they were doing their version of a NAMM show. It was just guitar, kind of like what Sweetwater does, where they brought all the dealers to their event that deal their stuff through Guitar Center, and then they let the public in. And I think they probably gave people good deals off the floor and stuff too, which they don't do at the NAMM show. NAMM show is strictly demo, but generally speaking. But anyway, Jen and I went down to this thing because we were there for EV, and then I was there for we were doing two things. Jen and I were playing in a basically like a ballroom to rep the EV PA systems, and then upstairs I was playing on the Digitruck stage, which was in the main room of the convention center. So we'd go up there. I would play a solo set for Harmon, and then we'd go downstairs and we would play a duo set for EV. And there were two ballrooms downstairs facing each other, and a hallway in between them with the doors open. And Jen and I were playing, and on the other room, Alan Holdsworth was playing with his band. And it was him and what's the drummer, Dale? Like amazing drummer that played with Alan Holdsworth, young guy. He was in
Husband.
What's that?
Gary Husband,
famous guy, was been like really, really great since he was really, really young.
Jack Markman, Chad Wackerman,
Chad Wackerman, Jack Markman. That's an alias right there.
That's right. That's it. I can't remember his name.
I was phonetically coming up with it.
Part of the famous part of the famous Jack Markman trio that is known for touring throughout the Midwest and playing amazing fusion.
It was phonetic. It was phonetic. Stop.
So Chad Wackerman was there. So it's Chad Wack. I forget who was playing bass, but it was this ridiculous band. And so Jen and I are playing the tracks in an empty room, and those guys are across the hallway playing for about 20 people, basically in an empty room.
We couldn't see it. You remember we were busy. We couldn't go check it out.
Yeah, you could just kind of hear it. And then we'd walk over, and like before our set, they hadn't started yet, and we hadn't started yet. And after our set, they had just stopped, and we had just stopped. We played at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
So we literally had like 6 people in this room watching us, and they had hardly anyone watching them. But every once in a while, somebody that was in that room will come up to me and say, I saw you guys playing in Long Beach. Yeah, like every once in a great while, like one of those 6 people.
Yeah.
You know? I have no idea. I can't remember, like sometimes I have specifics associated with people that follow the bands, and I'll go, oh, it's that guy, but I don't remember. But anyway, Stork says Chad Miniman.
That reminds me, I don't know if this story.
Don't forget that name, Dale. We need to remember that name.
What was it, Jen? Jack Markman or something? Jack Markman?
Jack Markman?
You can always refer back
from ether.
Right.
Sorry.
You're like Mick Jagger, just getting the vowels right.
Right. I was having vowel movements, okay? Oh, my word.
Jimmy Johnson on bass, Glenn says.
Who?
Jimmy Johnson on bass, Glenn says probably.
Oh, yeah, that seems right. Yeah.
So,
well, a story about, I don't know, somehow, I don't know how I connected this, but going back to NAMM and our art at NAMM and just bad sound at NAMM. Remember that thing we did with Mark Bass where they had a ballroom? And it's always deceptive. Yeah. So deceptive in these Marriotts and Hiltons. How freaking big a ballroom is, you know what I mean? And we were in this big ballroom, and it was just standing room where people were sitting down and watching, but it was really big and cavernous sound. And Jeff Berlin was playing before our band. Somehow we were headlining too. That was embarrassing. There was who was the
Michael Mannering,
and then
Michael
Jeff
Mannering,
Berlin, Andy Gottlieb, and then somebody other legend, and then TLB. And you could hear people, you could hear how boomy it was all night. And I remember Jeff Berlin because he just doesn't bother trying to be diplomatic. You know, he was just like stalling his show going, okay, if we can, I just don't know. We can't really play like this. and then finally he just go, okay, guys, let's play soft. And they're up there playing like super soft combo jazz because the echo was just getting away. And then we went up and of course everything runs behind. So our 45-minute set turned into 25 minutes and we just slammed the biggest, loudest songs of ours. And you guys are used to playing when you can't hear yourself. And I have a click. So we're all just, it feels like you're underwater and dizzy, but we know where we are. Like we can function better that way than some bands. I just remember it was just such a weird evening of horrible sound and prestige put together.
Well, here was the real deal with it was none of those fusion guys wanted to follow the loud prog band.
Yeah.
Because they're all playing jazz and obviously, Mike Mannering is going to do basically acoustic bass. It's not acoustic, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Solo bass, tapping and harmonics and stuff. So no one wanted to follow the loud band and then do their thing dynamically, but being last. So we're in good company, I will say, because to your point, we waited all night to go on and the company couldn't do anything about it because the ballroom is just hard stop, shut down, period. So we're like looking at the clock and it's just like, we're going to play 2-3 songs, maybe. And we're ready.
I remember not wanting to set up anything. It didn't have my sampler. It didn't have a metronome for anything. We just had, you had imported some of the backing samples into your thing. And I had bought a Hannah Montana pocket belt amp that I could use to amplify my phone as a metronome. So I think it was like a little pink thing and I had it on my belt. It was just, I just need a battery operated amplifier that will boost the signal.
Right. Well, so here's the deal. So we did that. And then the next year, they did the concert again in the same room. And Marigold was in our spot from the previous year, which is Greg Howe's like super group rock band at the time that had, amazing vocalist. Was not really a fusion band, but it was a really hard hitting proggy kind of just a bitchin' band that had, like songs that could be accessible, but really interesting as well. And they had the same exact issue. They were standing there the whole night just waiting to go on. And then they had like 10 minutes left and everybody had been waiting for them. And then I just watched the whole war ensue between the company and the hotel, because the hotel was like, you have to stop, you have to, we are shutting it down. And they're like, look, people have been sitting here for 3 hours to watch these guys. You can't stop it, so they went over.
I think that was the year I was so sick. I missed that show. So what happened?
They did exactly what we did. They played, I think, 3 songs, and the last one was probably 15 minutes long. Our last song was ADD, and it had the, drum solo and everything. So we went over probably 10 minutes, right? Yeah. But they did the same thing. They did a couple tunes, and then they just started one at like a minute and a half to curfew, and then played it for another 10 minutes. And everybody was screaming backstage and just angry security. And, the hotel manager didn't want to play the overtime or pay the overtime, to the staff, because you got servers and stuff there that are trying to wrap up their day.
Yeah,
and
right.
But I mean, there's, this is a packed ballroom and everyone's been waiting for hours to see this band.
Sure.
So you can't just yank it, So
I have a couple more nonsense NAMM stories, unless I'm
okay.
So, someone brings up Namthrax. That's a whole other topic. But anyways, go ahead.
So this last NAMM was the ultimate Namthrax, right?
Right. When you were describing NAMM, I was just thinking basically, a conduction vector. So here's just a nonsense NAMM thing. So Trav mentioned that somewhere between 40 and 200,000 people come in for NAMM. It's like so crowded, and a lot of the people just like being around that. A lot of people don't really have to. They don't have business. They're not merchants, and they don't have a pass. So what they do is they go into the lobby of the Hilton or the Marriott, and you're just crushed, and you're just completely crushed. But a lot of that crush is celebrities, and so some people are just excited about that. They're there for that. Like that's the hang. Like Friday and Saturday, the lobby of
the Hilton.
If you're at NAMM for business, you just stay away from it, right? And for some reason, the poor Clarion, like it's 40 yards away, but nobody goes there. And so somewhere along the lines over the years, it just turned into a drummer hang. I don't know how to explain it, but the lobby of the Clarion would just be drummers. And it's more subdued thing. There's not a live band playing, but there might be karaoke. And I think, a couple of people like from DW would be there. So there's some business being done where people are buying drinks and things are flowing. But overall, it's just a fun place for drummers and nobody else. It's pretty anonymous. And so I remember sitting there one year, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, really crowded. It's like 11:30, peak of the evening. Everybody's just kind of talking and caught in conversation, and some guy, just some goofball who doesn't know anything about NAMM, he just lives nearby, and he's doing karaoke up on the stage, and he's doing "Hungry Like the Wolf," like Duran Duran, and every drummer, whether you like Duran Duran or not, those cheesy toms where you go boo, 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 bah, right? So there's just those cheesy synth toms, and I just remember this, like you could never reproduce it in a movie. We're all just sitting around talking. And we're all registering this in the back of our mind. And this guy comes up to this point in the song, and every drummer in the room turns and goes, boo, 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 bah. And the guy on stage literally kind of goes like it's a flash mob or something, but that didn't exist back then. So he kind of looked around and he goes back to singing. And then later on, there's that whole like big breakdown where the bass line and the panting, and then there's a big like so same thing. All the drummers kind of laugh, and we all just go back to talking. And then that comes up, and it's even stronger. Everybody just stops and goes, and just air plays that fill, and the guy just like puts his mic down and kind of walks off. Like he just thought he was part of some joke. He didn't know everybody in that room was a drummer, either by trade or by,
Right. Yeah.
career.
By birthright.
So Anthony says, I have an odd question. What actor do you think should play you in the TLB biopic? I'm gonna put my 2 cents in for Jen and say Ellen Page, which is a serious answer. If there were actually a biopic, if anybody actually thought we were big enough or cool enough to make a movie about.
Wait, are we answering for ourselves, or what was the question?
Who should play us in a movie about us?
I saw the question asking about gluing my knee back together. I thought that was.
Well, I was going to get to that. I'm starting with
Who's Ellen Page?
She was Juno.
Yeah.
Oh,
she's also in the Umbrella Academy Netflix thing.
But she now, like now in her 20s, playing you in your 20s, that'd be perfect, right?
Juno, yeah.
Like she's a great actress.
Yeah. Yes.
I have no idea. For me, I could probably come up with something, but
that's tough. That's a very tough question. I have to think about that. Huh.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Both of you. I don't know. I can't think off the top of my head who. Okay, we'll have to get back to you on that one.
People who say that they equate to me, I don't get at all, and so I don't.
Who?
I don't know. When there's one or two people other people say that I remind them of, or with like that type of question, but I can never see those types of things.
It's hard to come up with somebody now too, because you can't just pull somebody out of the history of movies, right? Like you'd have to pull somebody out that could do it.
Right. Well, somebody said Robert Downey. I'll take that for Dale. That's a good example. That's flattering and nice, but there's no way. That guy's awesome, and I'm a knucklehead.
Right. Well, and he's 10 years older, right? Or not 10 years older, but
it was a point in time, and it's probably based on a movie that I haven't seen. But people used to say Mark Wahlberg, and I never followed that. But
how's your mother? Say hello to your mother for me.
Right. He's tough. I'm not. He's built. I'm not. He's cool. I'm not.
Got 3 nipples.
Zach Galifianakis.
There you go. I'll take that. There you go.
We're just gonna keep going with say hello to your mother for me.
By the way, hi Matt Tate.
Yeah, hi Matt
Tate.
I was gonna say that.
Matt Tate is
I know. He's like, I remembered that cripple knee, Jen, limping along with T-Lev. Yes. When you were talking about the NAMM show, I was specifically thinking of that time me and Matt and Tony Levin went and got coffee. And I was hobbling with the bloody pants and
TOB gets really good reactions in Chicago, and we'll play these great shows at Reggie's, and Matt will play with us, and we'll be like the headliner band, and he'll show up with a way more progressive, way more gnarly band and just scare the crap out of everybody before we play.
And I'm like, I don't want to go on after them.
Matt's got like these crazy guitars. Like he uses all the fingers, He's like one of those guys. He's got all his fingers and toes. He's playing more notes than are possibly.
It's not a stick. I forget what it. I know this, Matt. I'm sorry.
What is it, Matt? It's not a stick.
No, it's a.
It's not a tuba.
Hey, speaking of guitars, Trav, I'm going to throw out earlier. Somebody asked, based around your Wednesday performance.
Beautiful memory.
Somebody was asking about a guitar. Travis, was that a Gibson SB 300 on the studio wall I saw Wednesday?
I don't know. What is it?
It is a Gibson SB. I don't know if it's a 300.
It's a bass.
That's actually one of Randy Aller's basses.
Here, I'll grab it.
It's an S. I don't know that it's a 300, though. It is an SB.
Yeah, this is inherited from Randy Aller, who was a radio DJ in Cleveland, who we loved and loved us, and passed away a few years ago. Here, I'm trying to find. Here we go. So this is like everything he had was fairly rare, and this is one. And then there's a silver tone in the outside the studio here that I can't get to easily right now. That looks like Paul McCartney's bass, but it's not the same. It's a silver tone, so that's a rare thing because it looks like one of the old Beatles basses. But yeah, that's what that is. So I'm not sure if I can tell what it is.
Oh, Vincent says there was a 300 or 400. Yeah. I have it in my records somewhere, unless it says on there.
It doesn't. It's got a serial number, but it doesn't actually say a model number. It says made in USA. Yeah, but that's Randy. So that just hangs on the wall in the studio, and that's just kind of Randy keeping an eye on us. Is what that is. So get that to a safe place. All right.
Randy behind you, constantly being sarcastic.
Right. You look like a bowling alley with lips. My wife's so dumb it takes her 2 hours.
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Takes her an hour and a half to watch 60 minutes. So where were we just starting to go though? We were starting to go in some
You were
direction.
going somewhere and I interrupted you because of Matt Tate.
I don't remember.
We were talking about the anthrax that can occur at NAMM.
Well, I think Kip might have actually had the COVID at NAMM because he was down for like 3 weeks when we got out of NAMM. NAMM.
Yeah.
And that was right when everything was starting. Yeah. And he was, I remember talking to him and he had no idea what was going on. Like, he's like, dude, I just can't get up. I just, I can't breathe. He was like sitting up sleeping upright at night with pillows and stuff because he was so sick.
Oh, wow.
So I somehow did not get sick at this last NAMM, but I'm getting more and more, even before all this, I was getting better and better with the hand sanitizer and being careful because every year you go to NAMM and you get sick every year, and maybe that's for us, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we've built up an immunity, I know Luke was saying that his doctor told him with as much touring as you've done, you probably have like immunities that a lot of people don't have because he's just constantly going in and out of all kinds of crazy countries and stuff and exposed to thousands of people all the time, everything. Think about doing those shows and, you're shaking people's hands in the front row and all that. Contact with everybody, so just
collecting.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to point out really quick, Jason Yakamane is here. Hi, Jason.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
When I saw Matt Tate's name, I said, hey, Matt, if I thought Jason Jacquemin was watching, I would join you in one of these.
Oh.
Jason, that's from me and Matt. We love you.
We love you.
Greatest. Matt and I always get together and flip off Jason in pictures. So
right.
I was just I don't drink, but I like to look sophisticated. So I was putting bottles of wine on a shelf up in my kitchen the other day. And Jen said, that one we got from Jason Yakamane on whatever tour. And I was like, did we? Because the only wine I have is wine that we've taken from tours. They're the ones I hang on to because of that. One is from the UFO tour. Apparently this was from Jason Yakamane and it says Grandpa's Cheese Barn wine on it or something like that.
Yep. It was the blueberry something.
So Jason used to be a rep for
Jim
Electric.
Meyer is here too. Awesome. Nice. He is a stick player, I believe. As opposed to the instrument Matt plays, which is not technically stick, it's something fancier. And I don't know what it's called.
I don't know if this is the case, but I'm going to throw this out there because Dale and I were joking about this the other day. On Facebook, when you do events, I don't really understand how it all works, but if you create an event, you can invite up to 500 people to it sometimes. Sometimes it's only 50. We don't know why, but you have to go through and individually invite them now. It doesn't let you do like a regional thing like it did in the early days. So then what happens is now I go through and you can sometimes, not all the time, I don't know why. I'm just going to keep saying that about Facebook. You can invite people that were at a previous event that you did, which makes it easy because then you go just invite those people. So the other day I was inviting people to this event and I did invite previous people from previous events, but it didn't take up all the numbers. It only invited like the people that were on the page at the time, but not like the other 400 people or whatever. So then I start going, I have to figure out how I'm going to categorize my invites. Like, how do I invite all these people? So I just started going through like I'm going to invite everybody named Jim, or I'm going to invite everybody named Matt, or whatever it is. And so the other day I went through the alphabet and did a couple, and I think maybe, I don't know if this is true, but maybe that's why we're seeing a bunch of friends that we haven't seen on here before.
Oh, okay.
But I'm trying to come up with ways to creatively, how do I invite people? I can only invite so many. And I don't, I'd invite everybody if I could. So I just go through, I just want to let, whoever I can know that we're going to be hanging out.
So you could do like a Jason show or a Martin or whatever. And then instead of saying, hello, Cleveland, you could just go, hello, Jason. And everybody,
Right.
somebody asked what are the cups this week. So
oh yeah, what's in your cup?
Standards. It's the probably beer cup and the Titan missile tour that TLB did in Arizona, and the cute animals with heart balloons.
Yeah. But
You have something different in every cup?
Yeah, you have 3 different beverages.
Yeah. I have a beer, some wine, and I have some nice herbal tea.
Is that actually the truth?
Yeah. Well, I had some wine. I do have some beer.
Like one thirsty dude over here.
Yeah.
I have 3 cups.
I meant to bring up the weather. It's hot. That's why he's got all that liquid.
That's why he has all that liquid. It's been screaming hot today for those of you in California. It's hot. Stephanie says every cup is different. Now, here's the thing: do the cups individually, specifically dictate what goes in them? Like,
not really.
Like, is the beer cup always beer?
It does seem wrong not to put beer in the beer cup. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And is the cat cup something else?
The tea should go in there.
No, those are all fair game. It makes sense to put hot things in the rocket cup, but it doesn't happen. Okay. And like I said on a previous cast, the cute animals cup is just that I got crap for it because I teach at a place where there's only other musicians, and everybody's grizzled going, dude, what's with the cutesy cup? And so I just doubled down and kept it around.
I know what you're getting for Christmas and birthday presents for the rest of your existence.
It looks like Matt finally got back with details about the guitar. He says U8 touch guitar. U8 touch guitar. That sounds like a description of what I did versus the name of the guitar. And then he says he also plays stick. So I
knew he played stick, but I thought his main instrument, yes, the U8. I don't know why I can never remember that. So anyways, Matt is an amazing, fun individual. We always have lots of fun with him at NAMM specifically,
Yeah, and in Chicago.
And in Chicago.
Yeah. And we keep talking about doing something with him. What's that deal?
Jason Giacomane, always amazing and fun any time we're in Ohio.
Yeah, he's not in Ohio anymore. That's the problem.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, last time we were in South Carolina, I think we were trying to see if he was close enough to get there, but he's not in. So we haven't seen him in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like the last time we saw him, it was right before he moved, I think.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to decide what I am and am not going to squeeze in here. I had a Who's the Man that's kind of specifically applied to Mark Storm being on here. So
I did too.
Yeah,
maybe I should save that. People were asking if you had a joke, Jen.
I do.
Okay.
Well, I was going to bring up the weather, which I just kind of did. And then I was wondering if people were able to check out the Perseid meteor shower the last few days. Have you guys had a chance to look at the meteor shower?
There was one.
I blew it. I would have liked to, but I wasn't paying attention.
It's clear and hot enough. It would have been fun. Thanks for the update. Thanks for letting us know.
Well, so my joke was, how do you organize an astronomer's party? You plan it.
Ah.
No?
No, that's good.
You plan it. I thought you were going to say you line up all the stars.
No, you plan it.
Okay. A bat flew into this person's face and gave him a black eye.
You don't plan that.
You've never heard anything like that. So I was going to talk a little bit about Wednesday before we go. Thank you to everybody that showed up on Wednesday. these live stream performances are getting more dialed every week. And so this last week, number one, like, first of all, it all went as smoothly as I could possibly have hoped for, given how many technical issues there are tied in with this whole thing. And what a ridiculous, like, it's held together with like spit tape and it's like in Strange Brew when he says, my brother once got our stereo fixed with mixing bird feces and spit because of the acid. That's like what these web shows are like, so, but somehow it worked and it sounded great and all the camera angles worked and everything. I think we're going to refocus some of those cameras. It's trickier than you think because there's limitations based on how many USB cables you can use and all that. We talked about that last week, but my friend Dave Miranda from Magic Elf pointed out to me, and he's the only one astute enough to notice it. But once I noticed, it drove me nuts. He goes, the audio is a little out of sync. And I was like, is it? And I went and looked, and it's not just out of sync. It was the opposite of what you would think. It was the reverse delay where you heard the note before you saw me play it. So every single time we do one of these things, we get through it. I'm so stoked that I survived. And then there's one thing. And so it's like every single time we dial in one thing. So the one thing that we dial in for the next time is I went into it and I found there's a setting. Who knew there was a setting, and who knew that I was supposed to set it? But there's a milliseconds delay just for streaming live to YouTube and Facebook, because they know there's going to be a lag. But it's actually a reverse lag where you hear it before you see it.
Okay.
So it's a video lag, and my guess is, this is just me, like super genius. I'm guessing that it's because video takes up so much bandwidth that the video is slow and the audio is faster. That's my guess.
That's a good guess.
Anyway, so I think we're going to fix that for next time, which we'll announce, probably wait a couple of weeks, but, and then I got to work up the material too. People don't realize that you're not playing live. So to play a set of material, you kind of have to practice. But, Gino says, bring back the fart machine. We're trying, Gino. Kip does not have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to find the fart machine. eBay.
Yeah. Vincent says Travis was doing Milli Vanilli. Well, that's the thing. It kind of looks like that. I mean, it's obvious that it's not, because who would make that many Milli Vanilli mistakes? But I've gotten so detailed with a Milli Vanilli that I've actually engineered mistakes into the playing. We call them Facebook notes for the regulars. But anyway, thank you so much to everybody that showed up to that, because it really is kind of the only outlet. I won't lie. It's really kind of jacked up sitting here by yourself sometimes for like a really long time. And there's a lot of people out there doing this, hence hearing from people that had bats flying into them, I don't normally get messages from like that, and these things are happening because everybody is home and bored. It's like, hey, let me tell you about the bat that flew into my eye. Mm-hmm. So the point is that having to kind of have a little pressure to perform well for you guys and get my stuff together is, even going into it, you might feel a little anxious about it, but it feels really good to meet up with everybody and interact and, have some semblance of rock and roll and magic. So, right? So someday we're going to convince Jen to try and get in on that. That might be possible. We're still working. I don't know if we have the technology for Dale. We may figure out the technology for Jen. We'll see. But I'm not sure that'll be next time. And I'm not sure we can go back. The thing is, once Jen comes into the thing, then it's going to be like,
Jen, you can never go back.
Yeah, like then I'm going to do a show where Jen couldn't do it, and everyone's going to be like, well, where's Jen? Well, she was here last time.
And in my case, technology is not really the weak link in the chain. I'm sort of out of shape.
So Dale is working on the next the big band performance, though, right?
True. Today and yesterday did not work. Too hot.
Hot. I was going to ask you, how is it there in the Music Motive studio? Is it hot?
Here it's great. Here it's great. But where the TLB drum set is,
Avalon, yeah.
and it's
Avalon is not really Avalon. Otherwise, it would be cool and refreshing.
Well, here's the thing. You don't really build air conditioning into things where we live because we live in a coastal community. So it's very small part of the year where it's really screaming hot, if ever. Generally speaking, it's pretty normal.
Avalon's pretty rough a lot because it has this.
I'm trying to help Kip market the place and not talk shit on it because he's watching.
If you book time at Avalon, you will not suffer from this. This is specific to my practice space.
Yeah.
But if you see me coming out looking like a
it's specific to your own biochemistry and metabolism, so it has nothing to do with the studio.
It pours up all the heat of the afternoon and it emits it for a good 6 hours. So, and I know what the line is. It's 2:30 in the morning. At 2:30 in the morning, it turns and it gets cool enough to play. But
I would go out on a limb and say that most drummers that would be prone to rent out space at Avalon in August probably enjoy playing in 110 degree weather.
Sure. It's like to feel the rock star. They're under old timey like par cans,
Stephanie says music motive is always a cool 71.
Nice.
Awesome. Keeps her place running top.
Kip says August is the hardest. Don't I know it, brother? So anyway, anybody got anything else? We miss anything? Let me check my my text here.
Stupid joke in that everybody thought was good.
Yep. And all our Who's the Mans were Mark Storm specific, so we're all passing.
I had a Kip Who's the Man. I could save it for next time Kip's on.
That might be a long time. We should do it right now, and then because it'll probably be a while before he comes back.
You're gonna think this is funny because it's very Kip specific. Okay.
Specific. I know he's watching right now.
Who's the man? John Williams, John Carpenter.
This is funny.
Kip's gonna be like, who?
Yeah.
Huh?
That's a joke.
Yep. John Williams is the guy you have talked a lot about on the first Aristocrats tour.
So I gotta say, are we talking personal enjoyment? I mean, that's really, really tough. John Williams or John Carpenter.
Yeah.
I'm going to say just because of the full spectrum. And by the way, 2 nights ago, Christine was on and I was texting Dale stills of the television because.
That's right. I was in the middle of something and then I just never got back to it. Yes.
Well, so Bill Ostrander plays Buddy Rapperton, and he is a former drum student of Dale's and a friend of ours. And so I love to geek out on that because I'm a movie guy, so being able to see Bill occasionally is very exciting for me. I get all like, oh, it's the guy who played Buddy Rapperton. And so I'll tell you a little story about that, which is like an inside story. This is Bill's story, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind because if anybody has seen the movie Christine, the Stephen King movie, you will also agree with me that Buddy Rapperton steals the performance of this movie. Like when he plays what's the word I'm looking for? Like the ruffian. Yeah. I want to say Ruffington for some reason. When he plays the ruffian in the scene where the teacher in the auto shop is telling him to go to the office and he pulls out a switchblade and sticks it into Arnie's lunch, and like Arnie's lunch has yogurt in it and the yogurt goes everywhere, and then the teacher gets him up against the wall and he's screaming in his face, and then Buddy Rapperton, Bill, plays this part better than any scene I've ever seen it. When I was a kid, I saw this movie and I was like, that guy's an amazing actor, right? And he goes, I don't know if I should. I guess I don't want to swear too much.
You can do it. You can do it. We're all adults here.
He's like, I'll fix you, right? That's the worst line you can give any actor, right? I'll fix you, right? But then he goes, "You're gonna wish you were never fucking born, you little fuck," and then he just screams like out of nowhere, like. But it's like he's kind of talking, and then he just flies off the handle and screams, and it's such a weird thing. He seems really crazy. Right? Like he plays it so well. And he tells me that's 2 takes. They said do a mellow one and a crazy one. And then they cut them together. So So he's like kind of just talking like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And then he's like, blah. And they cut him together. So he's just kind of talking. Then he goes, blah, out of nowhere. And it's kind of startling. You're like, this guy's nuts. That guy played that great, Anyway, we know Bill. Bill took drum lessons from Dale. He's a great guy.
Yeah, thoughtful guy. More thoughtful. I mean, if your only experiences with him is in Christine, it's like,
Yeah.
Isn't he like a congressman right now? Didn't he run for office locally?
For office, and I'm embarrassed to say I didn't keep up in his most recent thing. I don't know what he's actually doing politically right now, but
Matt says masterpiece. Yes, Matt, you are absolutely right, my friend. But the whole thing was, I used to watch that on, like on HBO when I was like 10 years old, like when it was first out. And I remember that scene just being like, oh man, that guy's out of control. He's scary. And, the overall movie is great, but it's, it's a horror movie. It's not like you're going to win any Oscars, but that one scene with him and the fact that it was all kind of a fluke is hilarious.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Good inside stuff.
And the level of chops that he has dialed in.
So this is not necessarily answering the question of who's the man between Williams and Carpenter.
It hasn't weighed in. But
yeah, so I
go ahead.
Well, so I was kind of waiting to see what everybody said.
Yeah.
We have some of both, but I'm going to say personally, although I mean, Jaws is probably one of my favorite all-time movies.
That's why it's such a tough. Yeah.
But he didn't make Jaws. He made the vibe for Jaws, right? So John Carpenter is the whole shebang. John Carpenter is the music and the movie.
That's true.
And that's what's cool. And John Carpenter went out a couple of years ago. We were talking to the boy about this, and he toured on all the soundtracks for all of his movies. And he had his son has a band. So his son's band, and he went out and they had backdrops, projection screens playing highlights of the movies while they would play the themes for these movies live. And I mean, how cool is that? Like the vibe of that stuff. I love that stuff. Sometimes when I just want to feel like I'm in like seedy New York alleyway, I'll just go on YouTube and find like the soundtrack to Escape to New York, and I'll sit there with my earbuds and listen to it.
If you don't want to book a whole tour across the country to do it.
Right.
All right. Good night, Anthony. Sorry.
I said the kid did weigh in and said Williams.
Kip said, okay.
Yeah, but he's not a movie guy so much, Kip.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we can discuss this further another time, but yeah, I dig your point, Trav, that Carpenter's more of a bigger package.
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, I don't know how Jen feels, but Jen growing up was, I mean, you probably turned me on to Stephen King, or no, you didn't, because I said I was watching that stuff as a kid, but you were a huge Stephen Kinger, right?
Stephen Kinger?
Yeah, like, or John Carpenter, Stephen. Yeah,
the horror realm. Yes.
Like,
but that was more, I read those books.
Yeah.
The John Carpenter stuff is more of a audio, visual audio experience.
Right. But yeah, John Carpenter created great vibes. The thing is like awesome, Yeah. And it's all because of analog synthesizers. And that's how this all comes full circle. It's all because of all this stuff right here.
I can't remember if I talked about the NPR interview I listened to about the tuba player on the Jaws thing. Did I talk about that in a previous episode?
I don't know. Talk about it real quick, because I don't.
He said The Stand was the best book, and yes, The Stand was amazing. Oh my God!
But terrible movie.
Terrible movie, but yeah, the book was amazing.
Max Headroom riding across the desert on a bicycle, getting sunburned.
The book was crazy good. The Dark Tower series was amazing. Also, okay, sorry, Travis, go ahead.
I had friends who were really
good. It was really amazing.
I just remember listening to there was a interview by a session musician on NPR. It was probably Terry Gross or something, and he was doing studio session. He was a tuba player, and he was joking about, oh yeah, the studio scene back then, it was great. All these great orchestras were doing scores for movies, and he talks about, yeah, I was a union guy. I'd come, clock in. I was always on time. I was super professional. And one day, Los Angeles, I got stuck in traffic and I hadn't allowed enough time. And it's the one day in my whole career that I was late and I showed up, but tuba's not going to hold anybody up. They're going to be doing sectionals and stuff. And he goes, and Everybody's waiting for me, and I get there, and it's the Jaws theme.
Right.
It's the session where he's supposed to go. Darn.
The whole
like,
thing.
I look at it, and I've never seen it in my life. It says tuba solo.
Tuba solo.
It's like the whole movie.
You wait your whole life for tuba solo.
Right.
Damn it.
I love that.
We gotta take the night. Everyone's going to bed.
Yeah, I know. Brian says he needs a new TLB CD. How can I get one? All the links to support Travis Larson Band are in the description of this live feed right here. So just back out of it and look at the description as if it's a posted video. And we've got, you can go straight to travislarsonband.com, or there's download on Bandcamp and iTunes, and there's tip jars and all that kind of stuff. So if you're so inclined, please check that out. Please keep supporting Travis Larson Band. We're trying to keep our residences while we're unemployed for the next 5 years, whatever it's going to be. And so thank you guys so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, Goober, for hanging out every time. There's Goober's. And it's great to see Matt and Jim and all these guys that we haven't seen in a while.
Yep, Jason. Yep.
Glenn, thank you, Glenn. He might have already gone to sleepy time. And Stephanie, Sam, Gino, Cachino.
Glenn said on Wednesday that he's retired now. He doesn't have to get up early in the morning anymore.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Glenn's one of us.
Right.
So, all right, we'll see everybody next Saturday. We'll see what happens. I never did see anyone else pop up in the feed here. We're in a virtual studio, and we're hoping that Mark might show up, but he didn't make it. So
he did not. Okay.
All right.
I remember.
Be safe, everybody. Take care out there. Oh, Ronnie Lee.
Oh, hi. Hi. Ronnie Lee. We've been powwowing with this whole OBS system stuff. So just keep hanging in there.
Yeah.
All this technical stuff is impossible.
Yeah.
Trying to remember.
Ronnie Lee, by the way, for those that don't know, do you know the hit song that Ronnie Lee wrote?
Do you?
And tell me if I'm wrong, Ronnie Lee. It starts with "Hello, Father." You don't know it? Cherry bomb.
Oh.
Hello, Father. Hello, Mom. Right? Am I right?
I don't know.
Right.
I just
Let's play it. Let's do it.
Am I right? She says, yeah, I'm right. She says, I'm almost there. She's just making fun of me trying to remember. I remembered. I was waiting to see if you guys knew.
No,
I don't know the chord progression, but I know it was, pretty just straight ahead, like heavy rocking.
She says, nope.
No? Am I wrong?
Oh, man, you're in trouble.
Oh.
We'll just freaking play something anyways.
Okay. All right.
Let's go. Good night, everybody.
I can't hear Dale at all.
She wrote, I want to be where the boys are.
See if I can leave enough space to hear Dale.